Everybody, the SNC scandal has eclipsed everything in this government. Everything has been put on pause. China has rejected a large shipment of canola oil, I believe, as well. So there's international stuff that has not been dealt with because of this SNC scandal. The prime minister is distracted. And everybody's weighing in on it, too. Mr. Scheer had press conferences yesterday. Mr. Bernier has been tweeting about stop the corrupt crony politics and stop the vote buying and pandering. And that's still what his push is. And here he is talking about SNC specifically. He says, quote, SNC Lavalin, the Trudeau Liberals say they want to save jobs. All they want to do is help their cronies and buy votes. A People's Party of Canada government will stop the pandering and vote buying and will govern in the interest of all Canadians. PPC 2019. And here's Mr. Bernier himself.
Hello, everybody. The Trudeau Liberals keep saying the reason they are helping SNC Lavalin avoid a trial for corruption is to protect 9,000 jobs in Quebec. That's nonsense. The role of government is not to protect jobs in a specific corporation. The role of government is to create the right environment that will allow the private sector to create jobs and wealth. The role of government is to create the right environment that will be fair to all corporations and benefits all Canadians. If Liberals really cared about jobs, they would allow pipelines to be built in this country. What they really care about is helping their friends, pandering, and buying votes. That's the real scandal in Ottawa. Thank you.
And I appreciate Mr. Bernier focusing on the real scandal of buying votes for your buddies, allowing your buddies to get away with breaking the law in order to allow those companies to continue, the liberal machine. I was talking about it yesterday. It's a golden goose and it keeps laying Quebec seat eggs. And you don't let that golden goose fly the coop in an election year, right? Especially Quebec, right? Quebec is important for Mr. Trudeau to retain any seats, I think, at this point in time. Atlantic Canada and Quebec, because he's not getting any in Ontario and he's not getting any in Western Canada. So interesting. Here's Mr. Bernier's written statement. This was from 14 hours ago. He says, quote, I watched Gerald Butt's testimony yesterday and Justin Trudeau's declaration this morning. It is clear that this government is obsessed with protecting jobs at SNC Lavalin. Both Butts and Trudeau made it their central argument for pressuring Jody Wilson-Raybould to get a remediation agreement and spare the company a corruption trial. They were clearly willing to go to great lengths, including potentially obstructing justice, to protect the company. Why? Because SNC is a large and well-connected corporation based in Quebec, and the Liberals need more seats in Quebec to stay in power. The Liberals don't care about protecting jobs for Canadians. They care about protecting their own jobs. This scandal is the perfect illustration of what I have been saying for months. Politics in Canada has been hijacked. The two major parties are morally and intellectually corrupt. They don't make decisions based on the interests of all Canadians. They make decisions to manipulate public opinion and buy votes. It's all about pleasing their political clientele and their lobbies that support them. The Liberals and Conservatives don't want to discuss the types of policies that leads to such scandals because they both practice it. While they argue about how Jody Wilson-Raybould felt and what Butts or Trudeau meant exactly when they discussed SNC Lavalin with her, the People's Party is focused on getting rid of this whole corrupt system. We want to tackle the problem at its root, the constant pandering, the crony capitalism, the vote buying with taxpayers' money. That's what makes us different from all the other parties. That's what we will offer Canadians when they choose their next government in October. And there you go. So that's Mr. Bernier on SNC, and he's using that platform to stump speech. That's a stump speech saying this is what we'll offer you. This is the difference. This is the choices we would make. So, and I like that because that's a meaty stump speech. We are going to stop the whole corrupt system. That is meat. And then he puts into place how, right? Like, we're going to stop the constant pandering. We're going to stop the crony capitalism. Hopefully. I mean, I've heard this before. Trudeau said this too. Trudeau said we're going to be more transparent. Love the transparency with the limited window in which he waived his privilege for Ms. Wilson-Raybould to speak. So And is this a full fleshed out plan? No, go to the platform to see exactly what he's talking about. There's a lot of details there, but this is a meaty stump speech, in my opinion, and good use of the scandal for political means and to inform people who are maybe looking at the party. Okay, Michael Chong, who's a CPC MP, he's a conservative MP, and he says, this is a tweet thread, and he says, quote, "Many constituents have been asking me what did the PM do wrong, and why is this a constitutional crisis? I'll try to lay it out as best and simply as I can. Canada's constitution, our most basic law, is both written and unwritten. 2. The written constitution is found in various constitutional acts. Most well known are the Constitution Act, 1867, formerly British North America Act, 1867, and the Constitution Act, 1982, containing the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. 3. But much of our Constitution is unwritten. Constitutional conventions are part of our unwritten constitution. One unwritten constitutional convention is called the Shawcross Doctrine, or the Shawcross Principle. The Shawcross Doctrine has been adopted by all federal and provincial attorneys general in Canada. Attorneys general are the top law officers, top prosecutors in Canada. You can read about the Shawcross Doctrine here, and there's a link. I'll have a link to this tweet stream so you can get it. It's in number 4. Michael Chong says again, number 5. Yes, I know it's a written document, but it's unwritten in the sense that it's not written in the constitutional acts. It's a separate document. That's why. Back to Mr. Chong. Number 6. In brief, the Shawcross Doctrine says that the Attorney General is not to be put under pressure by the PM with respect to a criminal case. This is an important principle to protect the independence of our justice system, the justice branch of our system. So what happened? Number 7. The PM, head of the executive branch, wanted to stop a criminal trial from proceeding for SNC Lavalin. So last September, he talked to the Attorney General and told her so. The Attorney General told him that he made up her mind and the criminal trial was going to proceed. 8. Then, after Christmas, the PM in effect fired the Attorney General when she didn't do what he wanted. This is crisis number 1. The Constitution has been violated, i.e. the unwritten convention of the independence of the Attorney General in criminal matters has been violated. 9. The branch of our system that can hold the PM accountable on a non-criminal, non-statutory breach of a constitutional convention is the House of Commons. It is the legislative branch of our system. We watch Question Period. That's the House of Commons. Okay? Number 10. Among other things, the House of Commons, its committees, and parliamentary parties can vote to censor the PM, vote to hold the PM or government in contempt of Parliament, example, Harper government, remove the PM as leader of the parliamentary party, and select another MP to be leader and PM. Number 11, but the House of Commons and its Justice Committee, being majority controlled by Liberal MPs and the PM, have been unwilling or unable to hold the PM accountable. And this is a link to a Globe and Mail article that we are not going to go through right now. Number 12. This is crisis number 2. Our legislative branch so far has been toothless in enforcing our Constitution in the face of executive misuse of power. The crisis becomes public on February 7 in the Globe and Mail. It's now 4 weeks and counting. Number 13. And this is a third crisis. But first, a bit of theory on our unwritten Constitution. How do you know what an unwritten constitutional convention is? It is unwritten after all. Number 14. As I was taught by the late Professor Stéphane Dupree at the U of T, an unwritten constitutional convention is determined through a 2-step test. 1. Can the convention be articulated? 2. Do the people in the political system act in conformity with the convention as articulated? 15. If the answer is yes in both steps, then it is an unwritten constitutional convention. If not, then repeat step 1 with different articulations until both step 1 and 2 are yes. This means that the unwritten part of the Constitution can evolve for better or worse. Number 16. This is crisis 3. If this remains unresolved and the PM, quote, wins the next election, we've established a dangerous new convention. A PM can interfere in a criminal trial by pressuring the Attorney General. If the Attorney General doesn't do what the PM wants, they can be fired. Number 17, Professor Craig Scott at Osgood Hall Law School, York University, makes his point about crisis number 3 in his recent piece in Policy Options. And there's a link to that right there. Number 18, I hope that helps explain what the PM did wrong and why this is a constitutional crisis. End. Right, so if we do nothing and the PM is reelected, then those things are de facto passed into law and can happen without any consequence, really, and without people being outraged. So they can do whatever they want, and they will do whatever they want. Here's a CBC News article talking about how basically they can change the rules to allow SNC to continue to bid on government contracts because it's just a policy and it's not a law. like breaking the law is against the law, and they can be charged with all of those things, and that process can go ahead. They'll just change the government policy to allow SNC to bid. Great, right? Oh, we run the government. We can just let's just forget about worrying about breaking the law and allowing SNC to get away with it. We'll just change our policy. No problem. So it says, here's what a 10-year ban on federal contract bids would mean for SNC Lavalin, and I'll just skip to the important part. Canada's recent free trade deal with the EU allows European companies to bid on Canadian government contracts, potentially opening a door to SNC Lavalin through subsidiaries such as the London-based WS Atkins, which are not listed in the criminal case. Analyst Derek Spronk of RBC Dominion Securities said in a research note. Other experts say that even if the company shifts its focus further abroad, a criminal conviction in Canada could land it on a blacklist in other countries. In Canada, the restriction would apply to contracts that are issued by a federal department or agency and contain the integrity provisions, Public Services and Procurement Canada said in an email. Provincial or municipal contracts that happen to receive federal funding would not be affected, according to Infrastructure Canada in an email. One possible workaround lies in the public service minister having the power to reduce or waive bidding bans under certain circumstances, said international trade lawyer Lawrence Herman. This is not a law, but rather a policy under the government's integrity regime, he said in an email. So, yeah, moreover, the government is now considering changes to those ethical procurement rules, with public service holding a month-long public consultation last fall on proposed ineligibility and suspension policy that would give officials more flexibility to set the ban period. So either we'll reduce the time, or maybe we'll just, there's workarounds, no problem. So who believes Miss Wilson-Raybould and who believes Mr. Butts? Well, it looks to be 70-30 in a very non-scientific CTV poll, and there it is. And I don't have a link to the original. I'll put the link to the Gab user that shared it. And this is the final story, and this doesn't have to do with SNC Lavalin. I just thought it was absolutely laughable and something that fell through the cracks. And this is what they're going to use to base policy on, to crack down on people who they don't like. And the people they don't like, right-wing extremists, according to them. And what are right-wing extremists? Anybody to the right of Chairman Mao, I think. Like, if you don't embrace completely open borders and these illegal border crossers being in our hotels and us paying for them with our tax dollars, you are alt-right, according to, anybody on the left that I've had a conversation with. Crazy. This is insanity. Okay, so this is the Government of Canada website. Link will be in the description. It says funding to strengthen understanding of right-wing extremism in Canada. The Government of Canada is constantly working to keep Canadian families and communities safe from terrorism and violent extremism. Marissa Shen, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Get me so angry. Back to the document. Better understanding extremism is key to preventing radicalization to violence before tragedies occur. To assist these efforts, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, Karen McCrimmon, today announced funding for an updated comprehensive overview of the right-wing extremism movement in Canada. The University of Ontario Institute of Technology will receive $366,985 over 3 years from the Government of Canada to examine the right-wing extremism movement through interviews with law enforcement, community anti-hate activists, and former and current extremists. The result will be an up-to-date national survey on the beliefs, motivations, activities, and connections that characterize right-wing extremism in Canada, which will support law enforcement, the intelligence community, policymakers, and community organizations to tackle issues associated with this type of extremism. This includes hate crimes and the promotion of hatred and fear in communities and on the internet. Man, if this doesn't terrify you, it should. Here's some quick facts. Right-wing extremism is typically driven by hostility toward an array of groups, including racial minorities, religious minorities, and immigrants. The movement also backs a wide range of issues and grievances, including but not limited to anti-government and anti-law enforcement sentiment. Radicalization to violence happens when a person or group takes on extremist beliefs that lead to them advocating violence and possibly taking part in terrorist activity. And I'm sure the terrorist activity is very clearly defined. To examine the online dynamics of the right-wing extremism in Canada, the University of Ontario Institute of Technology will collaborate with the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, a London, UK-based independent organization specializing in understanding and addressing violent extremism and polarization. Yeah, well, this is all a ridiculous waste of $366,000 in order to justify the Government of Canada cracking down further on free speech or Google results or Twitter results or whatever that they currently already engage in. This is draconian. This is concerning. And this is just another in a very large quiver of reasons to toss this corrupt liberal government out on its ass in October. Do not vote liberal. They are as corrupt as you can possibly get. Unbelievable. What a waste of money. What a waste of a government. Oh. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca. This guy at least will work for all Canadians, I hope, in the best interest of Canada. Please, I hope we can have some honesty in Ottawa sometime soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca.